We see the Steam frame as a kind of fundamental shift in the way that we're looking at VR. We see it as a new way to play your entire Steam library, not just your VR titles, but also your non-VR titles. That's a quote from Valve. Fundamental shift? Those are some pretty strong words, especially because they appear to have a massive new title on the way. The game I'm talking about is Half-Life 3, and if you've maybe heard talk about Half-Life 3 come back up in recent times and you're not sure why everyone's talking about it so confidently, let me fill you in a little bit. Valve works on their own in-house game engine when they develop all their games, the Source engine, now the Source 2 engine. That means when they push an update for a game like Dota or Deadlock My Goat, we can see just little hints of other projects they're working on in the background, because the engine has updated with the games that they're pushing updates for. Because of this, we know there's been a game codenamed HLX in development for an estimated around 5 years. In this game, again codenamed HLX, you play as a character in an HEV suit. We know that. We know it's a first-person, non-VR game. There's also code referring to Zen creatures, also from Half-Life. The composer for Half-Life Alyx, slipped up in an interview and said he had worked on 2 Half-Life games when he has only worked on Half-Life Alyx.
But use those in both the Half-Life games, game, and
we know from the final hours of Half-Life Alyx, the documentary that Jeff Keighley put out, that Valve has tried to make Half-Life 3 multiple times in the past. We know from the ending of Half-Life Alyx, which I will not be spoiling because it is so awesome. That game is so underrated. Love me some Half-Life Alyx. That they are definitely wanting to continue the story. We know that from the ending of Half-Life Alyx. All of that to say, I think it is incredibly likely that Half-Life 3 is very late in development, and I personally would estimate it to be revealed this year or next year. But probably this year. It really does seem like it's close. For more info, check out Tyler McVicker if you haven't heard of him. I am paraphrasing years of data mining and digging that he has covered in far more depth on his channel. We fucking love Tyler McVicker here. He's so goated. Go check him out. He's got great coverage on all of that stuff. All of that out of the way. Let's assume Half-Life 3 is launching with the Steam frame and Steam machine, or not long after. Do we think they will make a build of Half-Life 3 optimized to play in the Steam frame on a flat screen, of course, not a full VR experience? And would they be so inclined to do this for their previous games as well? To get this out of the way, Half-Life 3, if or when it comes... when it comes out. I'm not holding back. This game is fucking happening. This game is coming out, and you're not gonna stop me. This isn't hopium. This is actually happening. It's time to stop ignoring all the details. I know people have been hurt for waiting for this game for so damn long, and I get that. People don't want to be hurt again, but you're not gonna stop me. You're not gonna silence me. This game is happening. Anyway, when that shit does release, it's totally going to be optimized for the Steam Deck. I don't feel like stretching that out for very long. It would be ridiculous for them to put out a game that they don't let run well on the Steam Deck. Half-Life Alyx runs incredibly well on the Steam Deck through a fan-made non-VR mod. It looks gorgeous. It runs at a pretty consistent 40 to 60 frames per second, and you have to keep in mind, this is not Valve doing their all to optimize the game for the Steam Deck's hardware. This is a fan-made mod that made it possible. If the game can look that good and run that well, Half-Life 3 is gonna run on the Steam Deck. And while it's very hard to compare the power of an ARM chip against an x86 chip, because it just doesn't translate one-to-one, and I'm not smart enough to even begin to do all of that, the fact that the game will run on the Steam Deck means that they could push it a little further, make its own build for the Steam frame, if they really are that close in performance. In my Steam frame video, I talked more about the power of the Steam frame and the chip inside it. You should check out that video if you haven't already. By the way, it's pretty good. And this chip, while it's not capable of anything mind-blowing, it might be more than you think, especially if you're not familiar with just how far along all of the technology has come. At the frames verification standard for flat screen, which is 720p at 30 frames per second, it is far from unreasonable to get games running well enough to be verified for that. specifically if they have a build made for the frame. It's good to keep in mind that Valve are wizards at optimization. Think about Half-Life Alyx running on the deck. And again, that was through a fan mod, right? It was just that well optimized that it did end up working. Deadlock even runs pretty solid on the deck for the screen size, and I would not recommend playing against anyone who's not a bot on that thing. It's very challenging, but it totally works. I am fully convinced that this is not a question of is it possible for them to get their games running on the frame, Half-Life 3 included. It's a question of will they put in the work to get their games running on the Steam frame, thus expanding the capabilities of the Steam frame further, proving to developers that, hey, if you do want to optimize for this, you can do it. Look, we did it ourselves. Now, I am aware that right now, if you want to upload a build of a game to Steam that is for ARM devices, you're only able to do it for VR titles, not flat screen VR titles, but VR titles made specifically to run on the Steam frame. But to me, that doesn't mean that the ability to make ARM builds for flat screen games will never come. In fact, it makes way more sense for Valve only to have the ability for ARM-based VR games at this moment, because the Steam frame isn't even out yet. They should be focusing on the developers who are developing VR games for the frame, and that's what they're doing. This, in my eyes, does not make it impossible whatsoever for Valve to allow people to upload ARM builds of their games that work on the Steam frame. What I'm saying here is that Valve has the opportunity to create this all-in-one VR headset that you can use for all your VR needs, streaming your flat-screen games, but also enjoying the majority of the Valve library directly in your VR headset. It's not just a really cool selling point if it came directly from Valve. The real question is, will they take this opportunity to make this super cool? I don't freaking know. I don't know. Like, leave a comment or something if you know, because, like, I don't know. So, like, you have to tell me because you might know, because you might be, like, an insider. If you're an insider and you have the release date for Half-Life 3, I'll pin you in the comments below. Anyway, if you enjoyed the subscribe, I like talking about these sorts of topics, and I like hearing what other people have to say about them. And that's going to be it for me today. So have a good one. Goodbye.